And it looks like we are live now.
Okay.
Dave and Calendar Niel here. We are talking about a really, kind of exciting, kind of nerve-wracking, topic here with the Amazon Prime series called The Rings of Power, which is based on a prequel to The Lord of the Rings. Amazon has been working on this for quite a while, and I myself am pretty excited to see like what they do with things. But there's already been some things that are like maybe not accurate according to Tolkien. And
a considerable number of things.
A considerable number of things. And before we get going too heavily, I did want to say that where Dave will not be watching it because it's not interesting for him, I will be watching it, but I also will understand that our spiritual path, the Elven spiritual path, is based on Tolkien's writings, not on somebody else's interpretation of those. And so I'm just going to say that up front because I don't want it to be like Amazon is doing everything all wrong. And, it might still be a good series, even if it's not exactly accurate. Like it might be a different retelling of a story. And certainly that can happen sometimes. I just want to let people know that as far as the spiritual path is concerned, we will be defaulting to Tolkien and Tolkien's writings, not to the movies, not to the series. These are fun things to do. I am definitely looking forward to some of the the cinematography and some of the other things, costuming. Lots of different things I'm looking forward to, and especially the music soundtrack with Bear McCreary and Howard Shore. Okay, that is like thumbs up for me. Okay, but there's some things that are very, very, I guess, problematic, like the way that Dave and I see it, as far as, and particularly for item number 1 in the description below. And so, Dave, I think that I'll let you go ahead and go in order of the description, and
okay,
we'll let it happen. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Do you want me to just read the notes that I typed up here, basically?
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Basically, let's put it this way. I'm not a person who dislikes movies, but I am a person who likes movies that are made directly from screenplays rather than adaptations from books, regardless of what the book is. In fact, I can only think of 2 movies that I really liked that were adaptations from books that I think kind of improved on the original books, or at least made them tighter. One is The Life of Pi, and the other one is Cloud Atlas. But pretty much everything else from me has been kind of not as good as the book. If I've read the book. If I haven't read the book, then it's up to the movie alone of whether it's well made or not, or whether I'll like it. So
yeah, I hear you. I was thinking of like maybe some old school ones, like the Count of Monte Cristo or something, like like where maybe they did something really cool.
Probably did.
In one of the movies that but it was older movies.
I don't remember. I mean, I've probably seen that one. I can't recall it to mind right now. But probably so. They did. They seem to make, with regard to story quality, they seem to make better movies even back in the 80s than are being made right now. But that's just my personal opinion.
I mean, it's interesting because the technology for certain things of movies certainly got easier to do. And I'm really thankful for that, because I mean, there's a lot of things that we wouldn't be able to see, but I think that what suffered is the storytelling and some of the dialoguing. I've noticed that, some of the things, like, it's not that the acting is bad, but some of the flows that were, like, they kind of just, like kind of either like skipped over that part, or that they don't
Right.
think it's as important as the effects and all of that kind of stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
And to me, that's more important. And I do like the effects. I like the access to that, but I think that the story is crucial. And
Right.
and the way that the dialogue folds out is a really important thing for me. Ruan De Hayden, which is Adam, he is in the house, and I forgot to say hi to everyone else in the house. So Merlin's in the house, Faith is in the house, Muriel is in the house, glad to see you, and also Draco and Nimue are in the house. So I just thought I would like say hi to all of you. And I'm happy to see you on the live stream. And if other people pop in, try to comment and let us know that you're here. And then, of course, if you are watching the replay, you can certainly comment when the comments of the video are available. So, okay, Dave, I think that you can take it away at this point.
Okay, this is relatively short notes because I did, not being a movie expert or TV series expert, I was just basically seeing what was out there with regard to how accurate it was to Tolkien's works. And judging by the preponderance of the evidence, as a lawyer would say, they have seemed to make a number of serious errors. So I'll just start reading. From all the data I've been able to collect thus far, Amazon's Rings of Power is only related to Tolkien in the manner that King Kong is related to the work of Dian Fossey. And if you don't know who she was a gorilla researcher who studied their gorilla culture, basically, because they're great apes. They do have a culture, even though they're animals. So both had gorillas as a subject, but there the resemblance ceases. For the most part, that was, I have to say, that was gold. I know. The other night, and
your analogy is so. I mean, it's pretty poignant. Let's put it that way. Yeah. And by the way, for all of you, I do have links up above in the live chat if you want to look at them. Also on the Patreon link that's linked in the description below if you want to see what the footnotes are, where Dave has derived some of these things. So just letting you know, because I couldn't fit it all in the description in YouTube. So go right ahead, Dave.
Okay. For the most part, the only similarities are that some of the characters have the same names as in the Legendarium, and some very broad correlations in what we may term storyline. But the mytho-historical embedding and motivations have been altered in the style of fan fiction. From the available data, the two main unsupportable variances between Amazon's adaptation and the Legendarium are, point one, Celeborn is seemingly dead, and then there's a footnote.
Yeah, that's huge. That's really huge.
And the problem with that, it causes a whole avalanche of causal anomalies, especially given that he's very much alive in the Third Age, essentially making this an alternate timeline. This is apparently done, insofar as evidence I got from some of the other YouTubers, to make Galadriel a warrior princess who don't need no man, yo. But seemingly also
You're so funny.
Well, seemingly also to put Celeborn conveniently out of the way so that she can be depicted as having smoldering male love interests, and that's also in some of the videos they actually.
Which, I mean, and by the way, for some of you who are maybe not familiar with elves of Tolkien, that would never ever happen in Tolkien's world. It's not like elves would be like, hooking up with that was much more of a human factor, and so
exactly.
one of the tags that I put on this video was humanizing elves, because to me that is a human quality, and yeah, I could see where Amazon or like some of the screenwriters like would want to add a human element in order to like have like a wider cross audience of interest. But for Tolkien fans, they know that elves would never, ever, ever do that. And so it's kind of insulting in a way, right? So,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, I'll go on here. And then I start speculating on how that might work from the showrunner's point of view. There's an outside possibility that the showrunners plan to resurrect Celeborn at a future date, since a Quendi can be re-embodied. And I have a note, not the same as human reincarnation, because it isn't. There's really two versions of it. They can actually be re-embodied. Another, a new physical body is constructed by the Valar for them, and their soul is incarnated into it. That's one. The other is that they're
and do we want to talk about that a little bit more, since we are a spiritual path and people might not understand the difference between like the concept of reincarnation versus the concept of the elves being re-embodied in a body that is like of their particular body, like when they were alive before, and that it's recreated again? Because it's really different.
Right. According to the lore, they, even as souls with no physical body, they retain such a good memory, a good imprint of the physical body, that the Valar can take those memories and reconstruct a physical biological body for exactly as it was when their soul left it.
And they have the same name too, often, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And maybe all the time.
Right.
Before we go much further, it looks like Draco and Nimue says it was the half-elven concept that actually led to that in D&D also. And Muriel says, I'm surprised they killed off Celeborn, given that the Tolkien estate said they weren't allowed to kill off characters that played a role in later events in the Legendarium. So yeah, maybe we're going to have to see what's going on. Like it might be a misinfo campaign, you know?
Right. Well, so I don't know if it's a campaign.
We'll see what happens.
Could just be a misreading. But anyway, I'll go with my note here. The second form of Elven reincarnation is that their soul is reborn into their children. So that's
okay.
The version.
Okay.
But it's
very interesting.
But it's not reborn into somebody else's kid or some stranger
right
years from now.
Yeah,
like
it's not like how it works with humans. Yeah,
right.
And actually, I mean, I don't even know if you know, because even in the Legendarium, Tolkien, being that he was of Catholic faith himself. Now I realize that, you know, that's just, you know, like that's his own faith. When he was writing the stories, he was reporting, you know, the elves and the humans, and, you know, kind of more like of a witness in a way, of that the humans, when they died, that they go straight to Iluvatar, and then no one really knows what happens because it's up to Iluvatar. So it's, you know, they bypass the whole system that elves have to go through in order to, you know, they go to Valinor, they get judged with, you know,
they
get judged in the halls of Mondos with Namo, and also with Manwe calling the last of the judgment, and then they remain in, you know, in the Blessed Realm, which, by the way, at one time was accessible to Middle Earth, but because of events in the stories, they are no longer accessible. Unless you die, or unless you can journey there, you know, or the Rainbow Bridge. That's the other way, and that's talked about in the Legendarium. But, you know, it's not something that, you know, like that we can access physically, per se. So, yeah. Merlin says that's deep. And then, half Elven is one of the races in the RPG games. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Anyway, aside from those two re-embodiments, but even those, they don't happen very often. I mean, it's not like, you know, elves die and then they immediately get, you know, re-upped or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it's a rare occurrence. Yeah.
Whatever they call in video game lore now, you know, whatever they call it. Respawn. That's it. They don't. they don't get immediately respawned.
Yeah.
I only know that from my daughter. She's a gamer, so you know.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so yeah, because I'm not a gamer either. But that's
Yeah.
brilliant. So yeah, it was. In fact, it wasn't even automatic at all. It was super rare, from what I understand.
Right.
Usually, if elves and elves are immortal, and they only die if they're like wounded in battle, you know, like mortally in battle, or something like that. And then most of the time, they just go to Aman. There has to be like really special stuff going on for them to come back.
Right.
Yeah, and by the way, Merlin says respawn gamer here, so you are correct.
Yeah. So anyway, I go on here. So okay, well, even if the showrunners plan to have Celeborn re-embodied, you know, later for the story, I said even if that's the plan, it conflicts what is said of Celeborn in the history of Galadriel and Celeborn in Unfinished Tales, because he's there in the Second Age doing stuff, you know. So something's got to give, you know.
Something, yeah, it's in conflict for sure. Yeah. That's what I think too. And I wonder why they would do something like that, though. I mean, it would seem like that they could do something else and they would still make it interesting. They could still do that. Now, okay, we haven't seen everything, you know. Amazon might still be hiding some stuff behind the scenes and surprise everybody, you know. But yeah, for right now, I don't understand why they would do that. It would seem to me that when they pay millions and millions of dollars to have the rights, they want to, like, you know, and especially when the Tolkien estate, you know, is the kind of thing where they would kind of enforce, like, making sure that they're you know, that Tolkien's Legendarium isn't, you know, going to be tarnished in the way that, you know.
I got a little bit of intel on that. Since Christopher died, the Simon Tolkien dude, JRT's grandson, is now like basically the head of it, and he's more well, how much will you pay me for it, sort of guy. You know?
Okay, well, and even then, though, I still think that the attorneys, would have, you know, because their job is to guard the Legendarium material. And yes, I understand that the CEO could, you know, like, be doing things, but I was just thinking that I still think that there's, you know, nobody wants to see the Tolkien estate go by the way of George Lucas and just, you know, selling whatever, you know. Nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to see Tolkien on Disney one day. You know, I don't. And we have a comment from Merlin that says, "Oh, geez, Tolkien's rolling over," you know, i.e., in his grave.
Which is kind of funny, because Tolkien himself specifically mentioned Disney, that he didn't want his work to have anything to have Disney touch any part of his work. So that's actually
and that was before Disney really got corrupted. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. That was in the 50s.
That was in the 50s when Walt was still alive or whatever. You know what I mean? Yeah. My goodness. So yeah, no, it's totally been compromised since the 2000s. Like, I mean, just beyond any kind of, you know, so yeah. And Draco and Nimue says he's spinning, and Adam said, didn't Tolkien actually say that? Yes. That's what Dave was saying, that he actually said that he would not want Disney to have any part of what the Legendarium. I would imagine that's in the letters of J.R.R. Tolkien. Is that correct? Yeah, it's in the letters.
I believe it's in more than one place. He mentioned.
Oh, it's more than one place. Well, that helps. And then it's like double. You know, like nobody can misinterpret that.
Anyway, I'll finish out the last point one here. Now, actually, this is the least weird thing that Amazon is doing. So even if point one is proved true, the second one is much worse. So I'll just okay. Anyway, I go on. I say, since the showrunners were promoted by JJ Abrams, and I give a link to that shows where that source comes from. I'm not just making it up. whose disappointing ending to the series' loss was still being discussed 10 years after its finale, footnote 5, I'd say either interpretation is quite possible. You know, either they've killed him off permanently, or they want to bring him back, and then everything will be made right. Or the whole thing is a misreading and it's not accurate. But here we go into the second point. This is the worst one. The compressing thousands of years of historical events into at most a few hundred years. Now, I've heard some people say a few dozen years. So I gave them, I multiplied and gave them, leeway. Even if they're compressing it into a few hundred years, it induces severe distortions and causal event branch points. That is to say, event X happens. That causes events Y and Z to happen downstream.
Yeah.
But those take time to unfold. If you're compressing things, there simply isn't enough time for a whole history to unfold.
I was going to say, and even under the best of intentions and circumstances, I think that could be really like pretty much impossible. So, I mean, right. I'm not gonna maybe fault Amazon and the screenwriters for that alone. I do hope that they like allowed the scope so that at least, like if that you're pulling out events from it and then you have history with it, that it's kind of cohesive. I mean, that's the best we can hope for, really.
Right.
But I don't think that there is a way that you can, like, let's do 10-year increments for, a couple hours at a time. I mean, I think that would be very hard to do. And especially when some events like take more importance than other events.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, I said will induce severe distortions in causal event branch points, even if point number one is invalid. That is to say, even if the thing with Celeborn is not true, and and it's a misinterpretation. I go on. Such compression is a much more serious error and effectively destroys the mytho-historical setting. This is why Tolkien himself said, whilst reviewing a screenplay for an animated version of The Lord of the Rings in 1958, that the canons of narrative art in any medium cannot be wholly different. And the failure of poor films is often precisely an exaggeration and in the intrusion of unwarranted matter, owing to not perceiving to the core of where the original lies. And then he says, and here I may say that I fail to see why the time scheme should be deliberately contracted, because in the animated version they were like what took place over about 6 months, they were compressing into like a few weeks.
And then by the 70s, now was the one in the 70s, that was a Lord of the Rings, and then there was the Hobbit that was animated, like before the movies of the 2000s, right?
Well, what happened was JRT sold the rights to make visual representations for the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit as one kind of like block, and everything. All of its conditions were specified, but there were no further sales from that. That was it. It gave certain derivative rights, but that was it. He sold it, and from his point of view, got quite a lot of money for it. But that was in like late 1960s
at the time,
1970s terms. Yeah. Anyway, he says, don't see why the time scheme should be deliberately contracted. It's already rather packed in the original, the main action occurring between September 22nd and March 25th of the following year. The many impossibilities and absurdities which further hurrying produces might, I suppose, be unobserved by the uncritical viewer, but I do not see why they should be unnecessarily introduced. Time must naturally be left vaguer in a picture than in a book, but I cannot see why definite time statements, contrary to the book and to probability, should be made. And that's important there, contrary to probability. Contraction of this kind is not the same thing as necessary reduction or selection of the scenes and events that are to be visually represented. And then he concludes with, the Lord of the Rings cannot be garbled like that. And I say, which also applies to Amazon's effort for much the same reasons. So that's my reading.
Although I will say that it seems like having it as a series, there could be less likelihood of a massive contraction because they have a series.
Yeah.
They can just
They could, but from the
Yeah.
evidence that I was able to find, it doesn't look like they're doing that. They're doing it for.
I hope that, I mean, I'd like to be proven wrong. Okay. We haven't seen, I mean, there are a few people. So I do understand that there is a free screening in certain cities tomorrow. If people are going to theaters and whatnot. Unfortunately, I'm not near one of those. I think my closest one would be Helena, Montana, or Salt Lake City. I wasn't even near one in San Diego. I would have had to gone up to LA. And there's a few that are like around the country. There's a few around the world. So check that out. But otherwise, we're getting ready for Amazon Prime to have it on Friday, September 2nd. So that's the timing of the actual premiere, and we're going to know more about it after it premieres. So, we're going from a pre-premiere kind of standpoint here. So we may have to do a follow-up video on this after the premiere.
But anyway, I that's basically what I have to say about, from what I was able to find out from the people who are more in the know than I am. I'm not a movie behind the scenes Hollywood-ish type of person. I'm kind of basically a Silmarillion monk in my monastery. I only hear what
yes.
I only hear what people hear on the news,
Yeah, it's kind of like peripherally, because you'll be like, I'm out of my lore for a moment, and then you're right back in, and Silmarillion and History of Middle Earth and Unfinished Tales, the Lost Tales, which is part of actually History of Middle Earth, but so. Yeah. By the way, we have like lots of lists. So if you scroll up in the comments on the live chat, there's a lot of the footnotes I was able to fit in little sections there. If that is annoying for you, you can either look at the Patreon link that I have down in the description, or we'll put it also pinned in the comments later, so that it's at least also there. We felt like that it was probably a good idea to have it in a couple places. Merlin says, Dave's a legend. You too, Calendar Neil. Oh, that's so nice. Legend becomes myth. So anyway, and notice notice that I am wearing the pendant. Like I didn't forget it, even though I'm here in Montana. I did not forget my Elven pendant. So anyhow, I wonder if anybody else has any comments or like other observations that they've seen around online. Boy, there's a lot of stuff going on for different reasons. Many people who are, like they're not really doing a spiritual path, but they are very devoted to Tolkien and the accuracy. And there's a lot of videos online about the inaccuracies that they've noted so far.
A huge amount. So and it's just not my crazy ass. I mean,
I know it's not you.
If it was
for
just
sure.
Me, but I mean,
no, and you have so you have quite a few of the videos noted down in the comments.
These are the ones that
and the description.
The guy calls himself Living Anachronism. I think he's one of those LARPer people, the people that like to dress up in period clothing and stuff. He's really good, and he kind of opened my eyes to that whole subculture, because I just thought they were like a bunch of high schoolers running around dressing up as whatever.
Actually they are they're very much dedicated to the accuracy of Tolkien's canon, actually.
And this guy's really smart, and his attitude is very similar to mine, and he can't be accused as being a white racist because he's Asian. So that simply won't work. The reason I say that is because a lot of the people who are defending Amazon are saying anyone who says that that their effort should be closer to Tolkien is a racist.
Which is ridiculous. Tolkien
yeah.
himself wasn't a racist. It's
No,
all over the
the opposite.
place.
The opposite, yeah.
I know. It's incredible.
And he was until he was 4 years old. He was in South Africa when apartheid was
exactly.
like iron fist type stuff. So
So we have some comments before we go further.
Yeah.
Pardon me.
I just said Tolkien, when he until he was 4 years old, he was born. He was raised in South Africa, and when
that's true. Yes.
And he said later in his life, after he moved to England and went to college and so forth, that he had memories of that, and he thought it was horrible. He didn't understand it when he was a little 4-year-old boy, but looking back on it, he understand it.
Yeah. So we had some comments come in that I didn't want to let go to waste. Draco and Nimue say Galadriel looks like freaking Joan of Arc, meaning in the Amazon series.
Yeah, she does.
And not impressed with any of the designs that I've seen so far. Muriel says Halbrand being Sauron, elves that don't look like elves.
Yes,
Galadriel isn't tall, and by the way, I'm guessing what she means by that is that the actress that's playing Galadriel isn't tall, where Galadriel is tall. Because I thought that Galadriel was tall. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then Merlin is being a smart aleck, right? And says, "I wanted to play Sauron." Draco and Nimue said apartheid is not pretty. Yeah, right. And Muriel says it doesn't matter if she isn't tall, but they didn't make her look tall. Right.
Yeah. She's actually noticeably shorter compared to the other actors. I mean, whatever.
Galadriel was described as man high, which is about 6'4". So yeah.
Right.
Man as in Númenórean. Yes, I understand. So, yeah, and actually, by the way, acting oftentimes is not portrayed height-wise. They have platforms for people, like, so that they look taller, and, when they're filming, and, lots of other things, even for humans, okay? Not just like what would be portrayal for elves. So it would seem interesting that they wouldn't use like techniques for doing the size thing, like that would seem very odd to me. So Muriel says okay, so that we yes, right, we are saying what she was saying properly. Okay, thank you.
Anyway, tell me when I should go on, or
Yeah, go ahead and go on. I think we're done now.
Okay. Anyway, I ended with I'm not interested in it, so I won't be watching. But I've collected a number of YouTubers and their channels. The first guy I already described as living anachronism. He's one of those LARPer people. He's really smart. If you want to get one good overview of what seems to be going on, I would recommend that YouTube link that I give. Okay,
so if somebody wants to just watch one particular rebuttal of all of these things,
now that's just
the best one. Okay.
Yeah. Now he just this afternoon came out with part 2 for this. He wasn't going to make a part 2, but he did come out with one. And if you want me to give you that link, I can, or we can add it to.
Well, what we'll do is we'll add it to the Patreon description, because I've run out of room here. But I will add it to the comments for sure.
Right. Okay.
For sure.
And he's really good. He goes through it in a very logical manner. He's very impassioned, but he's also quite logical. He's quite smart. He does a good presentation. So that if you just want to watch one video to get an idea of what's going on, I'd recommend that one. The next guy, he has a channel called European Lore. Now he's a bit more edgy. He's more like I can be when I get pissed.
Okay.
And his link to his channel is there. He's not new enough yet to get like a vanity YouTube URL, so it's it's ends in
Oh,
L3
right.
spring.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he has two that are really good. Two
Well,
videos.
I guess that we can, if we like his content, maybe we could subscribe to his channel, and then he can get a vanity URL.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that'd be cool.
The only thing is he's not racist, but he's proud of being European. So that might offend
some people. I mean, it doesn't offend me, because I think that it's okay to be proud of who you are, as long as you don't cut down other people.
Yeah, he doesn't cut down other people. He just
you don't do that. You allow them to be who they are, and then you are who you are, and hopefully one day we'll all be able to communicate that and understand each other, and what have you. So
and he actually he broadcasts from the Czech Republic somewhere in it.
Oh, okay.
Exactly where, but and that's why he has an accent. And what it'll sound like more of a British accent, but with kind of a trace of a Slavic accent too, because he also grew up partially in Poland, so there's like
okay.
Anyway, but he speaks English very well. He knows all the slang and whatnot, and throws out an occasional "these fuckers" and stuff like that.
Oh, goodness. Wow. Oh my goodness.
So he's really good if you can tolerate him. Some people might not be able to. Now the last one. Well, not the last one. The next to the last one, called Council of the Rings. This is the probably the most objective one that I found, in the sense that he actually, on his screen when he's reviewing an episode, and he has last time I checked, and that was several days back, he has 8. He might have more now because he keeps making them. He has like basically lore accuracy and lore inaccuracy counters online when he's reviewing.
Wow.
He'll go through it point by point, and he'll also have his own personal likes and dislikes, like, well, I like the way this actor or actress did this and such, but I don't like that, and that'll add up, but that's his personal. But he separates that, so you'll know what's his personal thing and what's not, versus the actual lore inaccuracy and lore accuracy. And as I say, as far as I can determine, the man's conversant with the lore. I watched a couple episodes and I didn't see any errors. So, as far as I can tell you.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to have you pause for a moment. I wanted to say hi to Peachy Fruit. She just got in the house, which is awesome. Hey, Fatima. And then we also have a couple of other comments. Draco and Nimue say Rings of Power should be named as, quote, based very loosely on the works of J.R.R. Tolkien. And then Merlin says, yeah, I'm more interested in the writing myself over the movie, as I am a fan of the original movies personally. So, I mean, that's legit.
A lot of people are.
That's fine. That's fine, as long as, like, nobody's saying, like, you got to do this the way the movies did, like, for our path, because we're not based on the movies. We're based on the works of J.R.R. Tolkien. So as long as that's okay. Hi, Callantir Neil, looking beautiful as always. Thank you. I'm in Montana, girl. So, and I'm here for a little bit longer. I'll be here until about the equinox, when I pop over to Portland and I go see Heilung in concert. And then I go to Missoula, and then I will be back by the end of September. I'll be back in Phoenix, and then going to San Diego almost immediately in early October. And then on October 8th, I'll be going to Ireland for about 3 months and maybe more. So just saying, like, I'm all over the place again.
All the way to Ireland. Yeah.
All the way to Ireland. Yep. So it's going to be an adventure. Merlin says we'll have to wait and find out, I suppose. And then oof sounds hot. Yes, meaning for Phoenix, absolutely. Phoenix was absolutely hot. And it's monsoon season too, so it would just burst into rain, and thunder and lightning in the sky, and and then when it's 100 degrees on top of it, it's pretty weird. Merlin says lucky, and my guess is that means Ireland, right? And Mildo says a music track of the series is called Nowa Matar. It means brave soldier, but this is early Quenya. That is not the Quenya developed between 1930 and 1950, which also appears in the Lord of the Rings books. This implies that they are going to confuse different external stages of Quenya. Now, I understand, Mildo, that they even did that in the first movie, like back in 2000, that they changed the languages around, part of which was Arda Lambian, that did that with Foxhanger's work. We peripherally are connected with Eduard Klocksko, who is he's a real life linguist, but he has been very upset about not meaning the languages of Tolkien, meaning J.R.R. Tolkien, versus any kind of improvisations that have come in the future. He gets angry about that too, and not necessarily because of languages change and they evolve, and that's what happens, but he wants it to be where, how Latin is, that it's Latin because it's Latin, right? It stays like Latin. And even then, when it's used for botany, it'll even change because botany, the field, changes all the time. So you'll have new plant names for plants that you used to think was a particular Latin name, and they'll do everything all over again. But the Latin itself is a, quote, dead language, meaning that it's kind of stagnant and stationary, and they do that so that they can describe things scientifically, right? He, I think, meaning Eduard, gets upset when people do not recognize the difference between the work of J.R.R. Tolkien versus work of later things, even with Arda Lambian, with Foxhanger, who was actually given the permissions, if you will, by Christopher Tolkien, the son, but it's not the same thing as J.R.R. Tolkien, because we know that Christopher Tolkien didn't actually bring the material in. He organized it. He, brought it forth. And I do think that he did a pretty good job for what his capabilities were of really preserving his father's work. But there was no way that he could, improvise the language. And so, the creation that Foxhanger made, and then even David Salo with, Cinder, the Gateway to Sindarin for the movies, and some of the other later creations. And then even the Elvish that would be in gaming, right? Or role playing that, is its own thing. How about the Elvish that was in Elven Realities, or the Elinari? Remember all of those 20 years ago?
Yeah,
when we were co-founding the Path, and we didn't even know about all these other things, and they're not of Tolkien, but they have a rooting in Tolkien.
They were
and
derivative blibber blubber from my point of view.
Yeah, I mean, and we're not using those things, but it's okay. But yes, Mildo, you have a good point, meaning that. And by the way, Linda, one of our patrons, had discovered that one of the gaming companies has an Elvish keyboard. Okay, now, I think that would be the coolest thing ever, to have an Elvish keyboard that you could plug in. Unfortunately, Eduard, I talked to him about it. I said, hey, is this legit Elvish? He says, no, it's not. And they are not listening to, wanting to make it accurate. They just want to sell it and make money, so it's sad, but so I'm not going to be buying that, bummer, but anyway.
I'll be right back. I have a cat emergency.
Okay. And Peachy Fruit says that's fair. Merlin says yes. Mildo. Oh, okay. I've already read that. So, okay, Dave will be back in a moment. So, well, I guess while we're doing this, so a couple of you have come a little later. I did want to say that while Dave won't be watching the series, I will.
I'm back.
I will be very curious to see how this works. And so, you know, like if you guys want to talk to me about, like, you know, after the series starts and, you know, and some of the stuff, you may want to run it by me rather than Dave, because Dave will be like, I'm not watching it. Right?
Well, yeah. Well, I'm also, you know, if I hadn't been exposed to Tolkien at a young age, I'm a sci-fi dude. I'm not interested
No,
in
well, but
fantasy.
that's
You
legit.
know,
That's
yeah.
legit because it's based on whatever, you know, is happening for that. Now, do you also do like other fantasy things, like, you know, that are created by its creator? Like, do you do any of the other fantasy types?
You mean me, or are you talking to
Yeah,
somebody
I'm
else?
asking you, Dave.
Okay. Not
Because
really.
sometimes
I mean,
sci-fi and fantasy, they kind of
yeah.
blend together.
It
You
it
know,
really
one is
depends.
future and one is like a kind of a like a again like a fantasy of the past. You know.
Yeah. Well, let's see. There was one that was a pretty good fusion, and that was Babylon 5. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of it, but
Oh,
that
right, right,
was,
right.
yeah. As far as straight fantasy, what I liked most, like more recently, was uh let's see. There was the original Dark Crystal movie, and that was okay. But what I really liked was the more recent series, Dark
Oh my
Crystal,
gosh.
whatever
Yes.
it was called. Sorry, I'm blanking on the name of
Yeah,
the
no,
more
it's
more recent
wonderful.
one.
That's on
Yeah,
Netflix. The
yeah,
Dark Crystal. Oh, that series.
yeah.
Oh, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. So, okay,
There,
so you do have a fantasy bone in there
yeah,
somewhere.
it
Like,
but
do
it has
you
to.
like the classic like 1980s, like the Willow movie and
Oh, Willow was
Legend
good.
and Labyrinth and
Let
like Dark
both.
Crystal? That was in that whole
Yeah,
genre.
yeah, both. I like
Yeah.
Labyrinth was really cool. I thought, and
I
Legend,
love Labyrinth, and of course I
Legend
love
was also,
Legend
yeah.
I mean, I'm not like, I mean, I really like the actress that played Lily in the Legend movie,
Right.
and of
Yeah.
course Tim Curry was the best thing as Dark Lord ever. Oh my God,
Right.
was he
Right.
so scary?
I
Ugh.
even I even used that 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 one dwarf that thought he was
Oh yeah,
shot in
yeah,
his
yeah.
brain pan, as he called, but he had his boots
Yeah.
on
Oh my
walking down.
gosh. And the elderberry wine that he kept under his
Yeah.
hat. And I
Yeah.
mean, oh yeah, that was just that was awesome. Yeah.
When my cats always come up and, put their paw on my leg and all that, I tap them right in. I'm tapping you right in the brain pan.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So Peachy Fruit says, I'm definitely watching it because differences to the source material aside, I think that it makes for a fun adaptation. We should be open to these expressions of Tolkien's work in media because it introduces new generations to it, and that always is a good thing. We must find more of our people, and I would agree. I'm just hoping that they really keep, and by the way, it can never be 100% accurate. I realize that things need to be improvised when you create movies. It just
Well, one
happens. If you can't really sometimes make a good movie out of exactly how the book is, because it's two different mediums. So you need to do different things with movies than you do with books. So I totally get it.
yeah one
I think though that it's about, like, sometimes the accuracy could be applied, and sometimes people like just don't want to. And I think that that's where we're kind of like going with, how come they couldn't like have Celeborn be alive? Like, what was the problem?
right.
You know what I mean? Like, why couldn't they have done that?
Yeah, one different. Yeah, this is important to what you just said
Yeah.
about, the difference between movie making. And see, one difference between, there may be some new people on here who don't know me or anything. So, um, I'm on
Okay.
the I'm on the autism spectrum, and I'm a visual thinker. So when I read a text, I I experience a completely immersive environment, more like a VR than like a movie. So I don't need a movie maker to do that for me. But other people might not
Yeah.
have that
Yeah.
have that 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 talent. So for me, that's why I like movies that are mainly made from screenplays. That I haven't.
Well,
seen
then all
before.
you have to do is listen to a soundtrack.
Essentially,
And,
yeah.
like for the audio part, right?
Right.
And by the way, they are doing those parts pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah. So and in fact, I do that sometimes. Like when we're waiting at doctor's offices or whatever, and other people are looking at their cell phones. Until recently, I didn't even have a cell phone, and the one I got is crap. It doesn't have any Android operators. It has something called KaiOS, which isn't really useful. So anyway, but aside from that, I can I can play part of Tool's Anima album.
Anima. Oh my gosh, that's one of my favorite Tool albums.
I just listen to it, and I can go track by track, and
hashtag showing our age, right?
Yeah, where other people have to, listen to it. I don't need that, Now
right.
there are certain things.
That's so funny.
There are certain things I can't do. I'm not a Superman. I have difficulty planning my life, but that's a different sort of thing.
Yeah, that's a different thing. And there's certainly there's superpowers, and then there's places that like we need help, and I think that's really actually for all humanity. It just so happens that the name of yours. I mean, I think that sometimes it would be nice to like know the name. Right. All the things that like we're good at and then we're not good at. I mean, you know what I mean? Like sometimes knowing that would be helpful, but sometimes it like also puts you in a box, which is not desirable. But so Merlin says, plus we have evolved language-wise, and the writing will go over most of my generation's heads. If they talk like that in the movies, people would lose interest. Very complicated to stay true to writings. And then
interesting. Okay. That's interesting.
And then he commented also that he wants to hear the music. And by the way, if you haven't checked it out, you need to Google, or put it in YouTube, find Bear McCreary Ring of Power soundtrack. They have a soundtrack all uploaded. He killed it. Just saying.
He did great.
Bear McCreary is amazing because he did Battlestar Galactica.
Exactly.
He did Outlander. He did the pirate show. Oh my goodness.
Black Sails.
Thank you. Oh my God. He is remarkable. He is truly remarkable. And him working with Howard Shore, I mean, I knew that was going to be a winner. That is some good stuff. Look it up. So Peachy Fruit says, yes, Dave, please listen to it. Yeah. Okay. And she also says, have you guys listened to the soundtrack of the show? If nothing else, I feel that they nailed the tone of Middle Earth and the music. Yeah, me too. Very much so. Although I will tell you, I skipped the Sauron songs. Like when I watch the movie, I mean, of course it'll be, but I want to get into the more of the Elven energy, right? So I'll play the Galadriel soundtrack. So, yeah. And the beginning song is really good too. I mean, I was listening to it just recently, and wow, it's really good. So I'm glad that they're doing something right with that. Dave, how far are we towards the completion?
You mean there's just one more YouTuber I found.
Okay.
He calls himself George the Giant Slayer, and I like him.
Oh, okay.
I like him because he's kind of mine and Callan Neal's age, and at the end of some of his videos, he goes into talking about, well, when I was a youngin', we did this and such, And,
yeah.
I just like him talking about that type of stuff.
Yeah, and by the way, if you guys don't know what our group is, we're in our late 50s, if that helps. So,
we're the very first of Gen X.
Well, or some of us are in our mid 50s, but some of us
Gen X
are in our late 50s.
Yeah.
It's
are
like,
Gen
I
X.
only got a couple more of those years, like, hanging around before I'm in my sixth decade here.
We are Gen X Prime.
Yeah,
kind of like
yeah,
Optimus
pretty
Prime.
much. Actually, so you know what those bastards did to my classification, because I'm 1964. They tacked me onto the end of the baby boomers, and I was like, no, 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 no. Okay, we are not baby boomers. I am going to fight that till the end. We are Gen X, totally, totally.
I had a friend across the street who was born in 1964, and he wasn't any baby boomer. Come on,
I know. No, yeah, that was some horse crap, right? Or bull crap, whatever kind of crap you're gonna make it, And Peachy Fruit says, no, that is wrong, because she's probably our age group too. Excellent. So Galadriel is one of her favorites. And Mieldo says it would be wonderful if we could try to determine how correct is to assume elves such as Galadriel and Elrond change in aspect the way they do in the series. If I read Nature of Middle-earth, well, they are not supposed to change their aspect in 2,000 years. And that's a collection of scripts by Tolkien. So,
exactly. Yep.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And Pink Snowflake says, hi. How's it going?
Right.
We're just saying hi. We noticed you popped in the room. Welcome, and we hope that you enjoyed the video. And if you didn't catch most of it, we'll have a replay available.
Right.
Peachy Fruit says, laughing my ass off. Actually, I'm in my 30s, but I hope I age as good as you. Oh, that's cool. You will. Don't worry. It's the elven energy, right?
Well, yeah, I mean,
and my diet, and like all of the other things that I have to do, because I went through about 15 years of terrible health for a long time. So, I mean, the fact that I got some things going back and that I'm getting my health back, yeah, it's a good thing. So I'm actually healthier now than like when I was in my 40s. It's true. So Pink Snowflake said, oh, yeah, no, actually, we're kind of wrapping up to the end, and we're, just taking comments now from you guys and sharing, like, what you guys think. So what you guys think about some of the Amazon stuff, and maybe what you're looking for when you're watching. Thank you, Merlin. Merlin says, you look great, sister.
So Merlin, I wanted to ask you.
He's so cute. He's probably like the age of my son, right? So that's just adorbs, though.
Merlin, I want to go back just a little bit of what you said a little bit earlier.
Oh.
So you think for people who are like 20-somethings now or early 30-somethings or whatever, you said that there's like a problem with the way Tolkien's language is written? Would it be easier? Like we have on the IV forum, we have Silmarillion readings, but we also have audios from Martin Shaw, so you can listen to it being read. Would people like you prefer more the audio versions? That's what I thought. That's why I put them up there. But
I think that it's tremendous to actually do both at the same time, to read it and hear it at the same time, because and Martin Shaw narrates it so beautifully.
Oh yeah,
it's oh my goodness, it's otherworldly. And so Merlin, if you need to get a hold of me or Dave about getting access to the audio soundtrack of the Silmarillion so that you can read it along with the Silmarillion, you need to do that, because And I agree with Dave. I think that it's timeless. I literally think that it's timeless. The beauty is so deep.
Right.
Tolkien wrote for all time, if you ask me. He did not write in an archaic language. I think he chose things in archaic language that would enhance like his retelling, but it's not archaic in like non-understanding. He is such a master weaver of words. He really is. He truly is a bard of his time.
Yeah, there's a qualitative difference between in understandability to a modern person between reading Tolkien and reading Shakespeare, for example. Shakespeare
Oh
is kind of
yes.
hard to
Oh
understand.
yes.
So, yeah.
Shakespeare is difficult, and
Yeah.
actually, I understood that some of the things in Shakespeare actually were over time. Like the emphasis wasn't the way that it actually was at the time. So there's been
Oh,
some
interesting. Okay. Right.
misconstruing of even that.
Right. Right.
So yeah, that's a very interesting thing, and you can probably talk to some SCA folks, the Society for Creative Anachronism. They like do studies of the like kind of how you're the lore master of the Legendarium. The SCA would be like the lore masters of the time of the Ren, like what the Ren fairs are about and some of those types of things.
Yeah.
Like the
Deneen used to be in
15,
that.
like the medieval times all the way till the Renaissance, and then even into the 1700s.
Yeah.
So
My wife used to be a member of the organization before she was
yeah,
dead. But yeah.
yeah. I love like people in the SCA because they know how to like make natural dyes out of plants and like all kinds of really cool things.
Yeah,
It's
she knows
great.
all that stuff.
Peachy Fruit says, yes, the Silmarillion is perfect. And like, let me just back up to make sure that I didn't miss anything. Okay, and Merlin was just saying that the language has evolved. We could even argue with that, Merlin, and say that language has devolved, okay? If you haven't looked at like the way that people text things, misspellings, all of the things that happen, I know that it's just happening and there's nothing we can really do, but I mean, I do think that there was an elevation of English, and I think that it is devolving, if anything. Silmarillion is perfect. That's what Peachy Fruit says. I think so. Agree. Have you seen our My Generation Talks? Okay, I'm guessing that you didn't type that right. We have devolved in regard to writing and language from Tolkien's time. And it's true, but it doesn't mean that you can't like listen to what Tolkien says and get the meaning. I really think that you could get the meaning where, for instance, like reading, like medieval writings, like, Shakespeare or even Chaucer or something like that. Like you would definitely
Tales,
need
yeah, I mean,
like a decoder ring, because that's even like Middle English and, like really complicated languages. So it's not that complicated. And I really think that his language will stand for a long time. I do think that it's very timeless. I think that even 100, 200 years from now, I still think that Tolkien, the way that he wrote, would still be relevant. I'm just saying. But I agree his work will stand the test of time. And yeah, our language and our attention spans have devolved. That's true. And it's going to probably even be more, I mean, just from knowing what's going on with astrology, what's going on with, like just the cycles of timing, we are going to be going through yet another technology like jump, like how we kind of did in the 80s up until the 2000s. We're going to be doing that again, like for the next 20 years. And we probably will not even recognize our lifetimes at that point. I would like to think that Tolkien is still relevant, though, at that time. Muriel says smartphones and social media have destroyed people's concentration. And for some readings now, it's a very hard, some reading now is a very hard task. Yeah, actually, I think that like also, I don't know about you guys, but like when I read a paper item, okay, yes, I bought a crochet pattern, okay, like, yeah, 50 cents, like, sue me, right? But when you have to like read it on a screen, it's a totally different experience than reading it from paper. Okay, I think my concentration is better when it's on paper. And I have ebooks for reference, like on my phone, and as well as my Kindle that you guys see me using all the time because I travel around and it's like, I have to have it with me. But I prefer reading from paper, okay, with no cell phones around, no Wi-Fi around, like just regular. My concentration is better. So like, it's not necessarily our fault. Okay. And by the way, you'll see it here on the back of my phone. There's like a little square thing here. So I actually keep this. This is a piece of shungite, and it's supposed to help like with some of the EMF radiation, like to like tone it down. And so look into that also, like for some of your electronic devices, or keep shungite or black tourmaline around you when you are doing online stuff. Okay. And Peachy Fruit says, I love crochet. Yeah. So I'll have to, in fact, let me see here if I can. So I'll tell you why I bought it. Okay. Because it was only 50 cents and I was at the thrift store in Livingston and I got a bunch of free clothes again out of the free bins. But let me show you what I'm going to make. So I am a person that loves adding sleeves to short sleeve, like this is a tank top or camisole, and I like adding sleeves, so it gives me a lot more wardrobe, like flexibility that way. And I've been wanting one with lace sleeves, and so this is what I'm going to make. Now, I haven't decided on what colors or anything. I do like this charcoal color, but this will be coming off my hook later. So, and we have more comments. Oh, sorry, that fell. I prefer reading from paper also, says Pink Snowflake. So yeah, okay. And then unplugging is a necessity to help with concentration. And then Merlin agrees. Okay. And then Muriel says, oh, shungite. Yes. Jennifer Heckle Myers, hey, I'm glad to see you. It's the tactile experience of reading from books and paper that allow for the mind to relax. I agree. I totally agree with that. Draco and Nimue say, good chat, everyone. We need to get going. Namaste. Okay. Absolutely. Okay. Laita, many blessings to you. Muriel says, oh, so pretty, probably for the little sleeve thing that I'm going to make. I think it's called a bolero or something like that in there. Whatever. It doesn't matter. It's sleeves to me. And facts, Jennifer. Yes, according to Merlin. And then Peachy Fruit was saying cute. And I'm guessing, again, that's for the item. Maybe you didn't see my earlier comment, but I said I want to. Oh, meaning that you want to crochet, or that you want something else, or paper or something. Oh, I hope the depiction of the elves will be as regal as the Peter Jackson films. I do know that they were using the films as kind of a touch mark because they knew that a large portion of their fan base would have already seen the movies. And in fact, if you guys have Amazon Prime right now, you can watch all of the Lord of the Rings movies on there. And I think it's the theater versions. I don't think it's the extended versions. But at least, they're getting people like primed to watch the show. And so I do think that they're going to have some touch points that match up with the movies, but it is not going to be identical to the movies.
Unfortunately, from what I've noticed, the armor depicted in the Amazon series, it's noticeably made out of plastic.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's not the quality of like the Weta.
No, it is not.
Yeah.
It's rubberized polymer of some sort. You can see it.
Okay.
You can see it jiggle. When they're.
Oh wow!
Actors
oh my goodness! Okay, that's very interesting. I'll keep that in mind. And then I'll get it on the second. Yeah, I think HBO Max has the extended versions. Oh, that's good to know. I did not know that. So I'm not an HBO Max, subscriber. But that might be a good reason to subscribe for a month and then just watch all the extended versions. Like, take all day long because you're going to need it. Okay. It's an all day, like literally get up in the morning, start watching Fellowship all the way till nighttime, you know, ending with the Return of the King. Because it's long. The extended versions are long. Totally worth it, by the way. I have the DVDs. They're packed away in my storage unit in San Diego. I will not be back, you know, other than to put more things back in storage when I go traveling to Ireland. So I'm not going to have access to that. So,
or I could just show you how to use BitTorrent. You know, I'll make a pirate out of
or Dave can show us how to, you know, like maybe on Mega NZ or something, right? Or something. So Muriel says they also use shirts with chainmail patterns instead of the real thing. Shirts of chainmail. What are your thoughts? Oh, I'm sorry. Peachy Fruit says, what are your thoughts on them selling updated copies of the books with the Rings of Power artwork on the covers? Who knows? Who knows? You're talking about like the history of Middle Earth, right? No, because they're like in the history of Middle Earth. Are they going to do that?
No, they don't really have access to history of Middle Earth. They just have access to the original sale, which was the appendices of the Lord of the Rings. They want people to think that they have. They want people to think they have access to the history of Middle Earth, but they don't.
So the publishers cannot use Amazon's stuff without permission from not only Amazon, but also the Tolkien estate, because it may have terms and conditions.
Now there's a whole chain of derivative works. Some gaming company bought like auxiliary rights to it or something. I don't know how that works. I'm not a lawyer, but there's a whole bunch
of things that are very complicated. Yeah. So who knows if that'll happen or not, Peachy Fruit. But yeah, we'll keep our eyes open. I'm sure that there are going to be some kind of marketing things for, you know, like selling more of, you know, there's going to be something, but I just don't know if that's one of them. So I guess we'll find out.
That's why they, I guess the showrunners feel freer with this because there's not a lot of material in just the appendices to the Lord of the Rings itself with regard to historical events. There's the tale of years, but that's not the same as stories. So they feel that they, you know, that more freedom that way, since they can write in stuff and whatnot, you know. So versus,
which is either part of the problem or, you know, like from a standpoint of Tolkien fans, it might be part of the solution for non-Tolkien fans.
Right.
But
like they couldn't use, for example, the tale of Aldarion and Arendis, which is in Unfinished Tales.
Oh, right. Yeah, because they would have to like buy that and then do Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So, well, unless we have any other comments, I think we'll go ahead and wrap this up. We will do a part 2 after the series has been released. And I think that I would like to watch at least the first season just to see how they're going to roll with things before we do the second video on this topic. But right now, as it stands, it's before the release. We've only just been seeing, you know, like little tidbits here and there. And then obviously a lot of interpretation of those tidbits that, you know, is evident. So we'll see how things go. Merlin says, much love, everyone. So yeah, well, good night, Muriel, Merlin, Peachy Fruit, Jennifer, Draco Nimue already left, Ruan, Hayden, and Pink Snowflakes. And I think that I caught everybody. I'm just double checking. Oh, and Faith. So I think that we caught everybody. I'll let you guys go for the night. Thank you so much for coming, and we'll see you next time. We are going to try to have a Tia Eldaliéva social soon enough on a Sunday. I will be notifying the patrons about that, and that'll be in a Google Meet room like we did last time. So letting you know, take care, Laita, many blessings to all of you, and have a wonderful evening. and have a
Bye,
great
Tom.
week and a great time in anticipating some of this stuff. Okay?
Goodbye, people.
Have a good one. Bye-bye. Namaste.